So anyway, I was thinking about two things really intensely. The idea of as they've put, and it's in Sidonia. I can't remember what chapter it is. He talks about the catalyst for the coming end times. I mean, for them to really get going, and the point where um, the Antichrist is revealed. He said it would be the discernment of Mars. And thinking back at what that means, of course, I mean, we talked about a lot, is when we get there. And that idea of man reaching to Mars, and
Mhm.
also the idea of the strange sort of connection in the occult and sort of the mythological occult of or understanding of how vampires behaved, and
Mm,
the legends of how Lucifer behaved, like in Faust. He has to
yes.
be he has to be asked, not just once, but three times. Like vampires have to be asked or allowed to come in. They knock, and that
Mm,
gets replayed over and over. They make sure they take care of that. But the reason that three that triuneness concept sort of stuck in my head is because of the motif that you see a lot in ancient mythology and ancient illuminated fraternities of this triune aspect of Hermes. Hermes the thrice great,
three
and
fates? Were there not three
the
fates?
thrice great, three
Uh,
times great, or
yeah, the
Trismegistus.
three fates too, right? Were not they're not three fates? Anyway.
Um, I think I have an image of him. I should probably bring it up. Maybe I'll do that later. But along that line, Islam has a belief in Hermes, or the thrice great one. And I can't remember exactly where I found that literature. I must have been looking at it about 11 years ago. And he is said to inhabit Mars, but to be free to travel between Mars and Earth at his will, as fast as, of course, Hermes, Mercury, Thoth would. So Thoth is Egyptian and Mercury is Roman and Hermes is the Greek aspect of the same god. But he has a future aspect too. And to understand this, I know this sounds extremely convoluted, but mythology is convoluted and it's manifold in the way you can interpret it and the meanings, and that's done intentionally. And the symbolic aspect always has a lot of meanings. I mean, symbols would work. It's an angelic thing, but of course, an inverted angelic thing because just in the same way I was mentioning, and I can't remember who asked the question on that talk yesterday with the book club, Timothy Alvarino's book club. Um, the question was, why are there analogs to Cydonia on the Earth? And Dave, this wasn't me saying this. This is what Dave said. I'm sure we discussed it before. And why would you have Washington, D.C. be, I think, 1 to 14 scale of what's on Cydonia? That's because when Mars was inhabited by these angelic entities, that quintessential point of Dave's book, that there were angelic civilizations on the terrestrial planets, Mars specifically, and Rahab more specifically, they had not, they were not in their fallen state. And so, what would an inverted angel do? With an inverted alliance, an angel of an inverted alliance do on Earth? Well, they do the same thing, but then they'd invert it to worship themselves, or at least their leader angel. That's what I was getting at. And along that line, there's a bunch of interesting concepts that come up, especially in the modern times that we're in, that I've been seeing, and sort of the nature of the way my brain works. I sort of compartmentalize a lot of things, um, sort of in my memory, but I also I compile them on my computer to just make lists and look at them later. You know, get a directory and start throwing files and thoughts in there and then look at it later. And I have so many of them that I've never done anything with.
Right.
But and if I get off path too much, bring me back, okay? Because I was talking about Mars, going to Mars. But I was thinking about money, commerce, that circle that's happened. So we're under a complete how's it put, a Babylonian money system right now, where when the United States was established, they had a sound uh, how would you put it, a Miesian version of Treasury. Only the Treasury could mint coins, and the only type of material that we could use to make coins was gold and silver. And it was a crime punishable by death. And it's written in our early documents that if you did debase coins, uh, the penalty was that severe. And I wrote about that in the book too. I mean, it's because doing that type of thing with people's money is likened to stealing human life. Although it may be in
Exactly.
an incremental fashion, it's a form of murder.
Exactly.
So the penalty then, therefore, is um, death, and that's completely had been completely negated. And so there's complexities to the story about where how we got to where we are. Talk about the Civil War, talk about what happened on what's the island, 1913 at Christmas Eve.
Jekyll.
Yes, you said
Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island. Thank you. Yeah, and and it's important that it happened, just before the well, on the eve of Saturnalia, I guess,
Where
when everybody
where
was at home. And then later on, and then in the 1930s, when Roosevelt made, and this is so unbelievable to me that he got away with doing this, making gold illegal, and the penalty, really severe if you continued to use it. And then everybody did turn it in. Some, of course, didn't. The small, 15% of people that are not easily led and that think for themselves, buried in their
hmm
backyards. And then
hmm
it wasn't until the 70s that um, that law, and I'm not really clear on when exactly that happened, but it made it that citizens could own gold again. They were granted they were granted the right to own gold, which is just absolutely this so unbelievable to me. I believe that that's occurred, and then Nixon took us off, or took um, the foreign uh, claim for gold for our money, for our currency that we're issuing, away. So no longer could you exchange our dollars for gold, and so they're completely nothing. It's just toilet paper that they can make, and the Babylonian magic um, has continued to work in the fashion that they intended it to.
I'm sure you're going in the direction that I'm thinking, but I'm gonna wait for you to finish saying your thoughts on this to add my 2 cents to your dollar
Well,
there.
I I tend to go very in wide circles, and they're not really circles. A lot of times they spiral out and then spiral back in. And if I'm lucky, I hit the target of where I wanted to go. So anyway, I mean, this is a magical talisman. This is these, a talisman is made by a wizard, witch, warlock at specific times when the heavens are favorable. It's that type of magic that's being used. It's very powerful. And the dollar bill's design has changed very little since its inception. And it used to be, what this used to be is a silver certificate, but it's worth nothing anyway. So the ultimate destiny of something like this is it will fail. And we're getting to that point. But my main point, again, was Mars. And why am I talking about this? Well, um, you see this sort of controlled chaos that's going on right now with the dollar and everything's going on with tariffs and this uncertainty. I see a lot of inconsistencies with the concept of tariffs being put out. For example, if you have a small business and you're in the United States, you have a small business running in some foreign country, or if you're from some foreign country, the Trump administration says that they're doing this to encourage you to invest in the United States. Well, if you're going to have a tariff that's going to last 4 years, then it would cost you more to invest in the United States and build your infrastructure if you thought that that tariff would go away in 4 years. There's there's impediments to things happening that people say that are going to happen. I think the chaos is being done for some other motivate that's being motivated by something else. And the thing that leads me to that idea is this sort of insidious uh, I can't get it out of my mind. This insidious inclusion of someone who's so steeped in 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 the cabals of money magic as the Treasury Secretary of the United States. Um, People I've heard say, well, the guy's name is Scott Besnet. He's a Yale graduate. Do you know this, Chad?
Yes, I am aware. Yes.
And he's for some reason this comes out. He's from a line of Huguenot blood. The times when France was having problems with the Catholic Church against the Protestants, and the Huguenots were a sect of a separation of that, and they got a really bad rep. And apparently, there was a time when most of them were wiped out, just killed, massacred. Um, the Huguenot cross is uh, oh, do you know the Knights Templar
Of course.
and the Knights Hospitaller? I think that's how you pronounce it. Knights Hospitaller.
Yes.
The ones who were given Malta by King Philip, I think. I can't remember. The ones who used to offer him the Maltese
The
Falcon
Maltese cross.
every
Yes.
year, and it was a special date that was sacred to Horus, who Horus, the Falcon god, Horus on the horizon, um, that is like a very very early analog of this idea of the coming God man, where the whole earth is someplace where the secrets of his manifestation are distributed, and then still the upper echelons of the people with the knowledge, the blessed ones by the by Lucifer himself, are searching for that sort of last quintessential bit of information to make that happen. So that's that idea of bringing about the golden age, or the thing that George Bush Sr. talked about, the New World Order, that they have a really good chance of uh, making happen. um, so getting back to that idea, this guy Scott, the Treasury Secretary, is also part of a secret society in Yale, and there's again that triune, that triangular nature of the secret societies that is very Hermes oriented. That triangle.
Just saying there's a couple things to just add to what you're saying. The first, the coming of their master, their one, this date and inspiration. Um, I don't think people are aware, but their most open, commonly celebrated location to where people can come and worship and honor the one that they are looking for are these tombs of the unknown soldier. They're
Mhm.
in every government location, but they're specifically located at the Triumphal Arches, which is the symbol of the rulership of the little g gods in any given country where they've been established. These arches, I cover that. So that was just one aspect to what you're saying. This coming one, these unknown soldiers and the eternal flames that are lit thereby, and then the
Right.
other.
Yeah, there's definitely something that someone asked. I think before you got on that conversation about where's Israel, or do you remember that?
I had to
Where are the
leave after
tribes?
yeah, where are the tribes? I
They're
wasn't
talking
there.
about the orientation of the tribes and whether there were 12 tribes and whether they were associated with the constellation, not the constellation of the zodiac.
Well, they absolutely are and were. Um,
Yeah,
they were actually arrayed. This is. I wish people would read their Bibles.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, Leo, or yeah, Judah was right at the
Of
gate,
course.
or right outside the east side of the temple in the wilderness. But I'm not going to digress there. But don't
But
forget about
I'm
Israel.
not going to distract you. The the other thing you were talking about, you were talking about a talisman. I just wanted to elaborate,
Mhm.
for anybody listening to this, exactly what is meant by a talisman and what is the power a talisman have. And the basic thing that anybody needs to know, you talked about money representing life, but a talisman has no power unless there is faith or belief, and that is its power. It's your belief in it. People our age grew up with that little bit of that understanding. It's erased from culture today in the Western Hemisphere, but that's essentially the power of a talisman is your
Right.
faith or
It's
belief in it.
inextricably entwined into the humanness of it. it has no power whatsoever if it's not involved that way. There has to be human, there's a lot of human emotional content involved with it, and human life. And it's, yeah, I mean, talk about a powerful talisman. I mean, this this is it. This is this is the best type of example of that I could think of, and it's incredibly diabolical. The child of himself, the son of Osiris.
Looking at that, that's just, the first time I read that, for those, reading David's work, and I remember being, it's not intended to be a pun. I remember being so impacted when he spoke about the original currency being that of an arrowhead and its value for sustaining life in its use in taking life. I just thought, you cannot get more enigmatic than an arrowhead being used for currency. The
Yeah,
taking of a life to sustain life, and that as an exchange for currency.
and the same unit
If
of
you can hold that,
weight.
if you can understand that concept in that picture, and how enigmatic it is, you can take that forward to today to understand exactly what modern currency is also doing.
Right. I mean, that idea too of the weight, the measure of currency and weapons is the grain, and a troy pound is the same number as the amount that's necessary for a mikvah, a ritual cleansing bath
Yes,
in eggs, but it's the same number. I won't say it because I don't have it in front of me. I'm just sort of a clear representation of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil in money, and in if you're going to contrast weapons and currency, or what is used for currency, the true currency, gold and silver, gold specifically, that symbol of that actual fruit, that actual concept.
so
So
I just thought it would be pertinent to fill that in as you're going on here with the inverted ankh and wolf head.
yeah, so Scott, the Treasury Secretary, is a member of the Wolf's Head Society, and it was made. It was founded in 1884, and 1884 is a very interesting year. But looking at this wolf's head, you have the head of Sirius. Or you could say the head of Sirius. You could say it's Lupa, uh, and it's over an inverted ankh. So I'm just going to list some observations. I'm not going to connect them together. I'm sure if anybody's listening, they will probably see where I'm going with this. But right off the bat, um, the idea of Romulus and Remus, which, by the way, the founding of Rome, the anniversary of the founding of Rome is on the 21st this month, day after Easter Sunday. Um, Coincides with the Feast of Pails, the feminine form of Pan, um, the shepherd god. Let's see here. I wanted to go and show. Let me bring it. I wanted to show my website. It's local. It's on my laptop here. I wrote this a long time ago. No one sees it except for me. And what I was illustrating here is this idea of what the Baphomet essentially represents, and the many ways of depicting the same thing that you'll find in ancient mythology and in illuminated fraternities. So here you have you could either interpret these two as Pollux and Castor, but they're an analog for the same Romulus and Remus. And so the legend is that after they were born, the she-wolf Lupa took care of them, and later Romulus founded Rome. I think he killed his brother for jumping over his ditch. And you have the alchemic symbol called Basil Valentine's Azoth. And this is interesting because you'll see this symbol, this specific symbol, in the background in Harry Potter a bunch of times in the movies.
Absolutely.
Rebus. You have the two-headed aspect, male, female. You have this creature standing on the dragon over what I'm going to call the earth, because it's you see this motif often. If you look at the mythological story of Apollo going to Delphi, he he kills the serpent that was guarding it. He destroys the serpent. It's the same idea too that you see in the legend of Saint George going to kill the dragon. What's happening here is that Lucifer, being cursed in, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Genesis 3:14, right?
Yes.
3.14. um, so Satan's quite angry that God put this curse on him, and what he's saying in this this type of symbolism, this angelic sort of manifestation of his intention, is that he's going to cast off, he's going to kill that old aspect of himself and rise up a man god, um, doing the same counterfeit thing that he had claimed he's going to do from a long time ago. He's going to try to imitate the Messiah. He's going to manifest as a human being. And then you have
If,
John Dee. You were going to talk about John Dee, weren't you?
yes,
The monad. And I won't get into the monad. That's quite esoteric. And then you have really simple iconography. Here you have the Freemason uh, circle and parallel lines. You have this is called the circumpunct. You have this dot in the center and these two lines. And this is often a shorthand for that concept in Freemasonry called the two Johns. The first John being John the Baptist, and then John the Revelator later on. And between them, what is between them? Well, in the Bible, of course, Christ is between them, the everything, as we understand. But in the diabolical reversal, this point in the center is pointing to Hermes. So you have then this idea again in more vulgar terms. You have the Baphomet. You have the Azazel goat, and I won't go into that. With the torch above its head, and this is seen a lot in Egyptian art. The torch above the head of the deity, and you have the light in the dark, and uh, Eliphas Levi, I think. Eliphas, I think is how you pronounce his name. Anyway, he made this, and written in Latin is Salve and then Coagula. So this means to reveal or dissolve, and this means to coagulate or conceal. And then you have the caduceus in his lap, and he's on top of the world. Like someone else is on top of the world. So it's the same idea being manifest symbolically in different forms,
you
but
mentioned
it's
you
go
mentioned
ahead.
Harry Potter. Eliphas Dog also happened to be the ancient or the old man who knew Dumbledore in his youth that Harry talks with at the wedding banquet of
Mhm.
Ron's brother. The old man who's sitting back and holding his little
Right.
cherry or whatever. It's Eliphas Dog, as I believe his name was, and their names and their connections are all over the story for anybody else out there.
Well, watching the whole series, people ask me, well, why are you so into Harry Potter? It's not that great. Or, I'm not watching it. I find it entertaining, yes, but I find it fascinating because what I'm seeing in it uh, blows my mind as far as this idea that one author could have put it all in there in the fashion that it was put in. And she said
Absolutely.
she was inspired really quickly, and the whole series was in her mind, and she had to get it out quickly. I think she did it on napkins on a train. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah. Or
Same.
the
That's what
cafe shop
fascinates.
down the road from her. I'm so sure. I'm so sure that's exactly how it happened.
And that, and of course, now she's one of the richest women in England, which makes sense. And so this episode specifically, this whole episode is a Baphomet. That's what I'm saying in this blog here. And the reason for that is, well, you have Sirius Black, so that's the torch. That's the center. The knowledge here. So this is Dave was talking about this astronomical analog of where Greenwich, the Greenwich mean meridian is right now. You have above, well, I'm talking about Rome, but I'm also talking about that area in Europe. You have at the time that Sirius is right above the prime meridian, you have Gemini on either side. See Gemini on either side, Sirius. So the eye of Sirius, the eye of Canis Major is Sirius, which is the circumpunct, the center of the circumpunct. Romulus and Remus, Pollux and Castor. Again, Pollux and Castor, Pollux, Castor.
That image that you're on right now, I'll
Mhm.
be this one here, the one below the Romulus and Remus. This one here, you were
Mhm.
talking about seeing a lot. The reason why this one is so enigmatic is this one is speaking specifically about measuring the earth and measuring the time. Um, if you look in the would be the left hand facing our on our right side, you have the
Mhm.
square and the
Right.
compass in the right. It's talking about the stars, the measurement of the earth, the slaying of the dragon, the old image. This image here is associated with Sirius because this one is telling you specifically to look for the timing. The Sirius star being the torch between the heads there, as you were just
Yes.
describing. This one is specifically talking about the timing and how it's measured on the Earth, to be more direct.
So yeah, there's people that go off on the and this is aside from what you say. I agree with what you're saying. Go off on a lot of these and try to explain the alchemy, the
Right.
alchemic symbols behind it. And I think they're kind of losing. They should concentrate on the trees here. They're concentrated on the forest.
Correct.
No, I'm saying that in the opposite way it is usually meant, but I think the center idea, the quintessential idea is this. It's encapsulated with this, and this is not this the Baphomet especially is not understood because these are the same thing. And if you keep going on, you'll see. I mean, so you have the story of Pollux and Castor getting really mad at Theseus because, well, these guys are Spartan, right? Theseus went to Sparta and abducted Helen of Troy. There again, Helen, light, the center, Helen. They took her and they hid her in the garden of Academos. Sorry. Theseus took Helen and hid her in the garden of Academos, which is in Athens. And her brothers, Pollux and Castor, came and they were going to destroy Athens unless someone told them where Helen was hidden. And the garden of Academos was a garden that had olive trees. And Academos said, hey, she's right here. And they were so thankful that they granted the Athenians their lives and didn't destroy the city. And so there was a festival that was done after that where they lit torches and ran through the garden of Academos to a certain place and did a sacrifice. Can't remember what that was named. But the idea there being that the knowledge was hidden and then it was put back in its rightful place. Again, that rightful place is the control that the Nakash has over the dissemination of the knowledge of good and evil for mankind. That hermetical essence that Lucifer has, and I'm using the terms for that angel interchangeably: the Nakash, Lucifer, uh, Satan, the caduceus that Hermes can use grants the knowledge or takes it away. He can make you forget or he can make you understand. He can open your eyes or close them, again, to reveal or conceal. Does that with the caduceus. In fact, there's a story about a medieval alchemist who put a caduceus on his eye medication as a sort of inside joke. And that's where eventually the caduceus came to be associated with medicine, healing. But Hermes was a healer as well, so it's not always just one thing. But going back to this concept again, you see it again, even in the depiction of this thing in the cult of Mithra. And I've heard it's pronounced Mithras, but Mithra, probably both. I don't know if both are correct, but this is called the Tauroctony, and what that means literally is bull murder. And so you have Mithra dispatching a bull in the throat, the neck, and he's looking over here to a male deity. The Romans called him Sol Invictus, and then you have the female deity, which has many, many names. But this female deity is some some force that's coming out now, and it's being revealed in this feminist movement here worldwide. This anti-God feminist, uh, anti-gender movement. It's not just feminist anymore, and this goes back to even more ancient cult, the cult of Cybele and Attis. But then you have the sort of another like accentuation of the idea here. He's looking over here to Sol Invictus, and you have I can't remember which one was which. You have Coat and Cotofates. One's raising a torch, one's lowering his torch. See, raising, lowering, same concept over and over again. So, getting back to why I went on this long rabbit hole, the wolf is that center, that idea of the center knowledge, and um, let's see if I can find that image again. That's what this is all about. This is about that life symbol. And I'll eventually get to where the point I wanted to make, definitely to you, Chad, because this is new. Where have I seen this before? That this star. So she's holding she's you call these stylized ankhs, which again, this is a very old Babylonian archaeological artifact. I don't know exactly where it was found. It's if you're going to talk about Ishtar, this is one of the images that a lot of people go to. And there was a very ancient civilization called the Minoans that lived on an island in Crete, I believe, and it was blown up by the Thera volcano, like one of the most
Mhm.
violent volcanoes in human history. It just completely blew them off the face of the earth with great prejudice. Great
Mhm.
prejudice. It was almost like someone didn't like them very much. Diabolical things that they were doing, and it was a society that had a very peculiar woman based religion. You know the vases that they'd find with women jumping over bowls,
Right.
oxes or aurochses. What's the plural of aurochs, Tyce?
So what?
An aurochs,
Aurochs?
an extinct, a very large bovine creature, a bull with huge horns.
A big bowl.
Yeah, an aurochs. I'll just say aurochses, like octopuses. It'd be octopi, but no one says that anymore. And everybody says fishes. I guess I always said fish. But
Fish.
so, mhm, I wanted to show this the Labrie above the ox head. And I hadn't seen this before. And I was looking through archaeological digs in the area, and they use the double X in a lot of places in front of the
Interesting.
doorways to their temples. The Labrie, and I talk a lot about what the Labrie symbolizes. In a nutshell, it's another shorthand symbol of the knowledge of good and evil. But the bull aspect is that reversal idea that you see in mythology a lot, where the bull is a god, yes, but it is the god that these religions show much symbolic prejudice to. Remember Bugonia
Mm,
creating bees by violently killing an ox and sealing it in a chamber with
correct.
pitch.
Yeah.
You can spontaneously generate bees from doing that. The ancients believe this. What I'm seeing here, though, I hadn't seen the X above the bull's head in any of the representations of the artifacts that they'd found in the Minoan civilization before. Nor had I seen the stylized labrie that combines the Ankh symbol with the labrie. So the two are related. In
Interesting.
fact, there have been archaeologists that have postulated that the two are related. But this is very old, very old. Um, the chronology, I mean, where it is in history, I won't go into because I'll probably be wrong. But it's old and has a lot to do with Atlantis influence and Phoenician later on. And I wish Dave was here because he'd sure have a lot to say about that. Anyhow, getting back to the wolf's head, that idea. So you have that um, intertwined symbolism here of the knowledge of good and evil, the center of that, and the Ankh, with the inverted Ankh. And this is the society, one apex, one vertice of that equilateral triangle that are the secret societies of Yale, which includes Skull and Bones, and I think Scroll and Key. And this guy, Scott, the Treasury Secretary, is the one that has Trump's ear, or so it is said.
Huh.
But going back on, going on with this. Okay, so what is the end goal here? Does Trump know all this about? I mean, okay, I'll just say something that I think is pretty grounded. I don't think that Scott Besnet is going to change his stripes. Do you? Someone
No.
that's a society member um, of the Wolf's Head group, is not does not have the United States people's best interest in mind. what his interest is bringing the golden age. And it's so funny that that term is used now. Trump's saying it a lot, the new golden age of the United States. The golden age is when, oh, Horus the child, or who am I thinking of? Harpocrates is manifest. So Harpocrates is that Horus the child image that you see in Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That egg, that star
Yes.
child that at the end you see him floating and looking over the earth. The star
Yeah.
child is Osiris reborn by him from himself. And that act is going to happen only after mankind reaches out to Mars. And I have a guess that it's going to be somehow threefold. There's going to be a threefold reaching out to Mars for this to happen. And the fact that Elon Musk is so fixated on Mars, of course, is suspect in my mind, with all these things, all these symbols and all these um, uh, world events that I'm seeing now, and knowing the symbolism that the illuminated fraternities have recapitulated over thousands of years, this is very meaningful to me. I don't think people see it like I do, and a lot of people just disregard, of course, what we talk about. Many people do, but I think it's important to look at. I thought that was the founding of the Wolf's Head is very peculiar because it was in 1884, and there was a panic of 1884, and created a credit shortage. But the thing that was going on before that was the gold in the United States was leaving and going to Europe. Today we have the opposite. We have this huge influx of gold into the United States. And the rumor is that perhaps Trump wants to put us back on a gold-based currency. There's that. And another thing that is interesting to me, the cornerstone of the Statue of Liberty was established at that time, and the Washington Monument was completed in 84.
Mm. Mm.
And another thing that Dave talked about a lot was, guess when the prime meridian was established as the prime meridian, changing from the Paris meridian, which is important for Dave's work at Temple of the Center of Time, the
Right.
distance between it to Mount Hermon. But now it had been established at a different area, going right through where the Flamsteed ball goes up and down once every 24 hours. It was on in 1884. So now you have this, again, you have this sort of circular thing. You have a Treasury Secretary that's a part of this society that was made in that auspicious time, coming into power, so to speak. And you have the good and bad. You have the light. You have Trump on one hand. I don't doubt his intentions, that he's authentic in what he wants to do. And again, you have the dark. You have that Treasury Secretary right next to him, and you see them all the time in the Oval Office together. And the words of Timothy Alvarino bring in my mind, it's never just one thing. It's always been that dichotomy from the establishment of the United States, just like Manly P. Hall said. So I think I'm done with my streed here. I think there's more. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I think I got everything. Oh no, one important thing that you must see. Let me digress for a second. I was talking about the fall of the World Trade Centers and
Okay.
the mystical quality of that as it pertains to money and finance and the progression towards the New World Order or the Golden Age that the illuminated fraternities were trying to bring about. That was done at a certain time, and a certain time that was important. Of course, everybody knows it was 9/11. Let's see here. Remember, I was saying that the two Tavs are important.
Yes.
That's my postulate is the very, very ancient origins of the first script that, well, I'd say the Mediterranean world, the Middle Eastern world used, had a different, the script had a different representation if it was written out. And I'll digress a little bit and say that it's written in Genesis that God used his own finger to write on the tablets that he gave him to Moses. If that's the case, the writing system was holy to God. That's a special thing. And if you're going to represent that, it would be in a reverent fashion. You wouldn't do it in a linear format because that has a beginning and an end, and God has no beginning and end. If you represented it in a circle, you take care of that problem. I'm saying that the beginning was the cross and the end is the cross. Their combination looks like the Aleph, the later Aleph, because man is so linear in his thinking. Man did that. But the Masons understand the power in that. And again, the ancients understood that too. The Minoans understood that. Maybe they didn't understand exactly why that the double X's had power, but they still used it and thought it had power. The Freemasons know that too, but this is obfuscated more. It's a compass and square. But if you look at it again, it's two Taubes. And I've seen representations of the compass and square with two hands between it, joining it together. Of course, with the pillars and the mosaic pavement. Again, it's a Baphomet, light, dark, center knowledge. The G there. It could be, what could it be? Could it be gold? Could it be God? What number letter is that?
You know,
But Chris Noyes pointed this out to me. Do you see it yet? Look at the Roman numerals. See it, Tyce?
Think so.
What? Speak the words. 9, 11.
11. 9/11.
9/11.
Oh.
Or in American, IXXI.
Oh. Yeah.
I'd never seen that before.
I see it now.
And it is so like them, right? Hidden in plain sight, that is in your face. The Baphomet itself has 9/11 encoded into it. The Freemasons encoded 9/11 into it. And I'm talking about that special time in history when everything changed, right? Oh, we just happen to have the Patriot Act already. I mean, it's about a foot thick. But here it is, guys. 9/11, and we just got to do it. That was the start of the boat we're on right now. So, yeah. Anyway, the going back to that idea too that we're reaching out to Mars and we need to get there, and then all things will start happening in earnest. So, I don't know. What do I think the future holds? More of the same. More of the light and dark. The look over here and don't pay attention to what's important, and the bait and switch and the psyops. I'm not making any predictions, although I was talking about the chapter about money in my book to Josh Peck, and I'm going to link that. If I do put this video out, I'll have that link there where I do make sort of a prediction of what's going on. And that happened to be today, 11 years ago, of all times.
Huh.
I think I've monopolized the conversation here, for enough time. I usually don't do that in our talks, but I'm done.
well, it makes me incredibly happy that you have, because I like seeing your heart and your passion and your mind engaged in these things. I don't see still everything that I know is there. I meant what I said yesterday. It's one of the things I want to keep reiterating to Timothy's audience or to anybody who reads David's work. It's one thing to read and try to comprehend, but to understand how to look at the information of the ancients is everything. It's one of the things I wanted to impact, is that David teaches you teach people how these people think. If you don't understand how these people think, you have to take off your own lenses and view it through theirs. If you can't do that, you're going to, even if you get a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of understanding and you don't have the understanding of how they think and view these things, you're going to miss everything. You're going to start seeing symbols everywhere and think that you understand what's going on, and you're going to be clueless by them, because these symbols are everywhere and there are purposes behind them. And that was the second part of what I was trying to say that I didn't have enough time to say, is that understanding these things doesn't come by reading a paragraph thinking about it for 5 minutes and moving on. You can't do that with this information. It takes considerable thought. It takes considerable time to sit and ponder the depth of things. It's the same things we do with words. We speak them quickly in sentences. We put them together and say these enigmatic things. But if you take down each word, you break it down into its etymology, into its image, into its picture, into its history, you get, it's a present that needs to be opened. It's a box that needs to be opened and the contents explored and brought out. And if you don't take the time to do that, you're going to miss what is being said, and you're not going to understand what's being given to you. That's the same with this information and how you're relaying it. And this is why I mentioned that very first question to you early on is, why is it that you and your brother thought in the way, in the manner in which you did? How is it that you guys, from a Christian perspective, seemingly out of nowhere, understood these mysteries? Why was David or yourself even drawn to want to comprehend them as it relates to scripture and holding Christ above all? To
Well,
me
you
that
nailed
is
it.
a sign of a calling.
Yeah, you nailed a key point right there, though, that the basis of Dave's understanding is the gospel.
Yes.
As plain and simple as the gospel is, that you believe that Christ died and rose again for us, that he really did that. That's your basis. Then you go from there.
And I guess
You believe the gospel.
and that's why I was speaking about the second part. You're helping me tremendously with why I said what I said yesterday, and what I was trying to impress upon our younger brother Timothy is, it is great. It's it can be both peace bringing and anxiety bringing at the same time. With understanding comes a sadness and a burden, to understand it. Solomon says, well, it's in Solomon's Songs, just that you have to increase your understanding is to increase your sorrow. As
Yeah.
for the things that are, except that this is the second part, and what I was speaking to, Yeshua. And this is where all this stuff is great. Understanding everything you said is necessary, I think, for this generation, so that they can see the magic. If you can see the magic that's being performed, the magician loses less of his wonder. You know how the trick is done. And that's the importance of this work, is to see the trickster at work and how he's doing his tricks, so that he can lose his power. Because our Christians today, and brothers and sisters who are believers, are powerless. They are happy and fine with knowing the pardon for sin and Christ's work on the cross. And that is what 98%, I don't care if it's charismatic, evangelical, non-denominational churches, all will agree on. Some are more enigmatic in different areas, but all will agree to this. They rose the third day, and they talk about his raising on the third day, but then they stop. And that's why our church is powerless. And the point I'm getting to, we are going to need to know Christ far more for the days ahead, to survive in it and to walk in it. And indeed, if you're going to be powerful and mighty in it, converting many and bearing witness, the whole purpose of the cross was so that he would be seated at the right hand of God. He is a priest and king seated in heaven for us. A man is on a throne at the right hand of God. It's good to know what he did on earth, but you have to know what he's doing in heaven today, right now. He is there to dispense the power of the life he won. He won a life for us. It is that spirit which was poured out. It's the appropriate time to be talking about this, the Passover, 40 days later. It is that spirit he won as a man, fully God, that he pours out into us. We have to get to know him for the reason he came to the cross. The reason for pardon of sin was the restoration of the life that he won. God,
right.
we
His
got to know
victory,
that.
people understand His victory is sufficient. You don't have to do anything more to receive it. You have to believe it. Believe it. Like he told the guy next to him on the cross. Just believe it. You believe it.
Now, I have, maybe I can find my studies yesterday. This is why it's so.
Tyce, you can chime in.
Yeah, chime right
I
in,
want to hear
Tyson.
what you're thinking too,
It's
because
very interesting. I'm also very tired today, but um I'm glad you showed us the pillars actually, because I feel kind of dumb that it's just like right there and now you can't unsee it. I'm like, oh,
yeah, right.
that's
Mhm.
crazy. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
all
you know,
interesting how it's all like it's all iterations just in different cultures. It's just all pointing to the
right.
same thing.
Yeah, the same theme, right? The same
Yeah.
theme. The
It is the
pillar.
same thing, and the pillars are in every country.
Hmm.
Right.
The
That
pillars are in every country.
that illuminated architecture that people just take for granted. Oh, the government buildings all have the Greek architecture, Ionian, Corinthian, Doric, and I'm educated because I can distinguish which style it is. You gotta, well, okay. I feel like what I'm doing is giving a brief, right? Before you go into some situation that might be important to know certain things, you need to get everybody together and brief them on what's going on. Um, that being said, what you're talking about now, Chad, is it seems appropriate. It's a quintessential ingredient to getting the job done. You're getting the job done. The most important thing. You don't really need to be in our group and get the briefing. Christ's atonement, the fact that he rose from the dead is sufficient. That group of people that believe, they have it. What I'm talking
It,
about is something different, something a little bit more for people maybe outside of that realm. Because you
well,
can come
here's
to Christ from being an atheist and then listening to an intriguing person give a talk in one day and go and think to yourself, what he's saying is making sense, but he's also a Christian. Okay, how can I rectify this? And Dave hoped that a lot of times that would happen. Indeed, there are a lot of
well
people
that
that did happen for.
that's essentially what I'm saying. You're absolutely right that we need nothing but the scriptures. We need nothing but the Christ, eternal life,
Mhm.
power, and authority to live this. I agree with you. That's what I did in my book, is to brief. It gave people a brief to look around. What did the scriptures say was going to happen? Look at history. What did happen? And what was the last 2,000 years about? Except for Egypt to spread over the world, and it had to follow
Yeah.
laws, it had to follow rules, it had to follow a methodology. And taking your brief or my brief to the believer, and now I'm talking about the spirit-filled believer or the one with
Mhm.
understanding, is that if grace is with them and they be alive, by the power of the Holy Spirit, they ought to be able to speak to the people they're going to be facing in face to face in power. We have
Mhm.
no idea what's going to come upon this face of the earth, and they're going to have to understand it and speak
Mhm.
in authority and power to it as a
Right,
son of God or as
and
a
it's not
daughter
going
of
to be
God.
a subtle transformation
It's
to that
not.
state that they're intending. It's going to be a
No.
in your face blitzkrieg of shocking revelations. And if you don't
It's
have a basis in your faith, you're going to get blown away. I think Timothy
here's
alluded to that.
we said this so many times, and you hear Timothy said it. I've heard you say it. The stage is being set.
Right.
Okay, the stage gets set behind the curtain. We haven't even seen the curtain open. We just telling you everything that's going on behind the curtain. When that curtain opens, the world that we are going to be brought into is going to be so entirely different than it was this side of the curtain when they decide to rip it open themselves with their Messiah, their
Mhm.
veil. I think that speaks to it. They also know there is a veil, but they're orchestrating their revealing. They're ripping apart the veil, and their God of the holiest of all stepping forward into the midst of the people.
They're
it's
Lord of
it's going to be
fortresses.
so entirely different, as you said, that
Mhm.
the reeling that a majority of people will have is going to be overwhelming. The magic is going to be too powerful. And that's what I was saying. We're just simply trying to pull the curtain like Toto in the Wizard of Oz. We're pulling open the Wizard of Oz to see the man behind the curtain, turning the wheels and speaking into the microphone. I am the great and powerful Oz.
Yeah, suddenly there's a point I was going to make too that illustrates it well. And suddenly, that wizard that's yelling at them with the fire isn't so scary anymore, is he?
No, no.
With understanding comes a lessening of the fear factor. You know, if your faith is tenuous, then you're going to be in big trouble. But if you have a good base, you'll be fine. And in some respects, knowing other things, or knowing the things that we're talking about, may bolster it for some people. I hope it does, but it's not necessary that they know these things because the
Well,
Holy Spirit's there for them. That
the,
strength.
the you know, we'll see very quickly. We'll see very quickly, you know, when the true transformation or this great reset takes place. Make sure that the skyrise doors buildings are barred and locked, because
Right.
many who worship that god will be finding their ways to the roofs and the windows.
Yeah, well,
For
I mean, conjecture, you know, they're going to destroy the dollar. It has to be destroyed, and they need to go to a complete digital system because that's the techno slavery aspect of what they need, that complete control. And that being said, I do not think that there's going to be a catastrophic electromagnetic pulse from a solar mass ejection until that's done, because I would bring us back basically to having to light fires at night if we lost our power grid for a sufficient amount of time.
which I'm perfectly happy doing. I was born and raised in the
I'd like to
States.
go back to an
I can
agrarian
survive.
subsistence living. Although in Arizona, I'd have to probably dig cactus roots and eat lizards and things and eat
Well,
scorpions.
we can
Probably,
identify plants around here, and I'm not required to eat meat. I haven't for over 2 years now, so
yeah, as long as I have a
I
couple
can.
chickens, I should probably be okay. I eat like an egg or two a day. I should probably be fine.
Yeah.
That's how I lost the last 25 pounds.
Well,
Yeah,
anyway,
and stopping drinking beer. That was there's some nice brew pubs around here. I miss brew pub beer. It's so good. They're coming
Calories.
from the mecca of it up in Montana. I miss that.
Oh yeah. So
And you're in
many.
Florida now too, aren't you? You don't. I don't know how the brew pub breweries are down there, but I know around Boise and Missoula, it's the most per capita,
Yeah. Top 10.
and that's way off left field. But
I
yeah, it's good that we're out here and able to talk about it, and I want to get it out and get stuff out there so people can hear it as poorly as I deliver it, perhaps, but nonetheless, I need to get it out. And I
I
really do appreciate what Timothy's doing with Dave's work. It's it's a renaissance of Dave's work in the fashion of this being greater than the first one back in the early 2000s. As Chuck Missler and Mark Easton were saying, that the flock wasn't ready for it. The things that they wanted to talk about with their congregation, they didn't. They talked about them on radio shows maybe and wrote
I
books about it, but they never really talked to the congregation about it because, as Mark
I,
Eastman told
I
me directly, the congregation wasn't ready for it. And I kind of
well,
scoffed and said, "What do you mean they're not ready for it? It's start."
I think you said more precisely when we first began talking again. One of the first things you said, it's not necessarily that they weren't ready for it. It wasn't necessarily the time for
You're
it.
right. You're right about that too. I mean, let's think about it. That was the birth of the internet. I mean, a web page was a novel thing when the Watcher website came out. You know, um, well, what am I thinking? People did overhead projection presentations like Michael Heiser used to do, like you had in high school, or you had in high school. I had
Yes,
not, maybe not
like I
Tyson,
had.
but I mean,
Tyce doesn't know what we're talking about.
Dave did his
We
first
did
lecture
that
was
in
done
the
with a
kindergarten.
PowerPoint. Yeah, Dave did his first lecture with PowerPoint. That was novel
Yeah.
in 2002. I mean, not
But
a
we
lot of people
still
were doing it in PowerPoint, you know?
I don't know if this is going to be hopeful. I don't know if it's me. Tyce, I was sitting here thinking one of the questions that came to mind is, um, now that you are, and I don't know, so if I speak out of turn or incorrectly, you can correct me. But since I became aware that you were interested in your dad's work, how much of his notes have you that perhaps might not have made it into his book have you been trying to find or go through, or did he even have a lot of notes outside? Because it kind of feels like he put everything he had into the books, but as an author I can tell you not everything I found made it into my book. So I'm just curious if you have had that kind of interest to go through your dad's work to see perhaps what didn't make it in that he was looking at or marked?
Um, I've haven't really found a lot of that, like, after the move, I don't really know where a lot of that stuff went. There may have been like notebooks with notes, but I really think that the Watcher website is kind of like that. Like a lot of the ideas and thoughts that came out of that were in the website too. So I
Thank
don't,
you.
yeah, I haven't really,
You-
I don't know if they exist, the notes, I don't know.
Here, let me show you something.
Well, I saw you reach out.
Yes, all right.
So, so what I was asking Tyce was, as an author myself, I can tell you that so many of my notes in the sides of other books or in notes that I've taken in notebooks, while I drew from that information and that knowledge as background, it informed my writing. A lot of the notes that I had or had to the side did not directly translate into the book I wrote.
Mhm.
But within those notes and written on the sides of pages and things like that, because they do inform, they also give you the mindset of the author. It helps you start in the same place of the field they did when they began walking, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
And if you can start in the same place that they began walking, it helps you to see what they saw as they walked. It's like walking in a field. Why is, if you're looking at the final summation, why is he talking about this bush, this tree, that fence post, this rose over here? But if you start in this field and walk the path they did, then you start seeing these things in the order they did. And it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why they were informed to write what they did in the way they did. And so that kind of thing is a curiosity, a great curiosity to me to know, what did you find written in the margins of your dad's books, in his notebooks, or on other books that he read? Was there things written, things underlined? That's why, to me, it is very powerful for you to have that for that reason. I think that's the best metaphor I can give, to start in the same field your dad walked to see what he did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you
So
were saying,
well, I haven't found a lot of notes besides, I think that the Watcher website is a really good, like notes that where they were going kind of. But I mean, that was kind of like always ongoing at the time. But I do have the book, The Secret Destiny of America, the Manly P. Hall book that I borrowed. And it has some like, it has a lot. It's very like, it's got like those earmarks in it, and it's got like she wrote in it in like green pen, and there's some other stuff in here. Um, yeah, there's a lot of notes in this one, but I haven't found anything else besides that though, since everything
well,
got moved.
yeah,
Oh,
that
sorry,
is
guys.
a great treasure.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That is a great treasure that you're
Oh,
holding. And I would
so
encourage you to talk to mom
Mhm.
and see if you can't dig out a few of those things for you today on that journey.
Yeah,
speaking of
Because
she.
I,
notes, so Dave used to play a claver sonata. It's a KV. I think it's funny. It's a 332. Genesis 332 is, but it'd be interesting to look. But Dave used to play, especially the first part. I mean, he used to play this so well, and I play it too, but I've never played this as well as Dave did. But I just wanted to show you the back. Speaking of notes,
Oh,
yeah, the
yeah.
notes all over.
yes,
Everything I have Dave has notes like this.
Yeah. He writes it all over. I don't have any of that
It's
stuff.
yeah, they were scattered everywhere, but I have a lot of his notebooks with work like this on it. He didn't
Yeah.
write. He has coffee stains and stuff on it. His piano all the time.
that
But
that's the
I mean,
that
what's
is the
great is having music he used to play all the time and being able to play it myself. And think,
that
oh,
that is the
I'm playing
treasure.
this just about as well as he used to now.
Yeah.
I
That
enjoy
is the
myself.
treasure. That is the treasure.
Absolutely.
Genesis 3:2 says, and the woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat. That's Genesis 3:2.
Yeah, well,
Genesis 33:2, I don't think. And he put the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. But Genesis 3:2 is, and the woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat.
yes. And what is it that the Skull and Bones motto is? It's 322. What's 322, John?
There's a 3:22. Is there a 3 verse 22?
There is.
There is. Then the Lord said, Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now lest he stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. That's Genesis 3:22.
Right. And that's the motto of Skull and Bones. Have you seen the Skull and Bones with 322 under it?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
That's what that
It's
is all
also
about.
something to do with Christoph Columbus too, with the date 322.
Mhm.
Christopher Columbus, who sailed through the pillars.
This page that I turned to has notes on it. It says is it Harpocrates? Is that how you say it?
Harpocrates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Younger Horus,
Right. Mhm.
talking about like the Rosicrucians.
Harpocrates used to be always depicted with a flame right out of its forehead that looked like a fleur de lis. Anyway,
Got a lot
three,
of
two.
that in my trip over the weekend for work. Everywhere. In Louisville.
Oh yeah. So the fleur de lis, they say, oh, it's a lily flower, and well, yes, but the how did he pronounce it? The Dauphine, the French kings, they they consider themselves incarnations of Apollo, the one that would, of course, I mean, Apollo is the same one that's coming, he is Harpocrates. That's the Antichrist, that iconography, that motif, that illuminated um, essence that goes, from ancient mythology, to the time in the future when he's manifest. He has all these aspects, and it's an angelic way of of recapitulating ideas and putting them into symbology and reflecting the nature he's doing. Lucifer is doing that for himself because he's a narcissist and he wants to glorify and magnify himself, and he does it in an angelic fashion. But yeah, so that's the 322. They believe that they're going to become gods. It's a mockery